Good morning, y'all. It is currently 10:31, November 27th, 2025, and happy Thanksgiving. I would like to tell y'all a story about the dream that I woke up from this morning. But before we get into that, I invite you to go down to the comments and tell me any interesting dreams that you've had lately. Let's make it a conversation down in the comments. Okay, so I went to sleep around 2 to 10 last night, somewhere around there, and I naturally woke up from this dream at around 9:30 a.m. this morning. I've started getting into a nightly practice of trying to meditate about 20 minutes before I go to sleep at night. I started doing this, like I did it yesterday. I think I did it the day before, and I did it the day before that. So this will be my third night of trying to meditate about 20 minutes before going to sleep. And I think that might be helping a little bit in remembering my dreams. I didn't make a video yesterday because I didn't remember any of my dreams yesterday. Okay, I'm going to try to make this quick, but this fucking right here is where the dream starts, and then it goes into the next page. This took like almost 2 pages for me to write down, because it's been a while since I've remembered a dream this clearly when I woke up. Like, usually I have to give you the spark notes. I actually remember how most of the details went, and this was like more of a story, an actual story, than just the like spark notes, you know what I'm saying? And excuse me if I'm like shivering and that affects how I'm speaking. It is literally like 30 fucking degrees outside right now. So I'm in my car with shorts and a t-shirt, and it's pretty chilly out here, so I also kind of want to make this quick. Okay. The first thing that I remember is I am hearing from somebody that my sister-in-law's family is having a get-together, and there's somebody that's telling everybody a story. She is a dream character. She's not somebody from my real life. She is like a motherly, matronly figure in this dream, and she's like gathering a whole big group of people to tell this story. And it's like a whole thing. It's a somewhat interactable performance. Like it's like she's a storyteller. It's not something from real life, you know what I mean? Like, this is like a performance. And yeah, like I said, she is a dream character. She's not somebody from my real life. I hear beforehand, before we actually get there, that it's kind of like tradition that at these get-togethers, everybody gets really high on mushrooms. I don't remember if the storyteller was in on this or not, if she even knew that everybody was getting high on mushrooms to listen to her stories. But yeah, that's just a known thing. Like, even my sister-in-law was doing it. Everybody was doing it. So I know about that before we get there. And I'm not interested in this. This is a little, like, fun fact about me, I guess. I'm very, like, fascinated and interested with psychedelics and altered states of consciousness. You may or may not know, if you've been following along, that I used to be, like, a huge pothead growing up. Like, I was such a pothead, smoking, like, at least a bowl or two every day in high school. But I don't know, at some point after I moved out of my trailer, or moved out of this trailer, this is where I lived in high school. This is where, like, most of my pot smoking days were. At some point between then and when I moved into my own place where I used to record Dream Journal vlogs, I just stopped smoking. I can't remember why. I think my landlord didn't want any smoking in the house, and I wanted to, like, respect her wishes, so I didn't smoke at all. for a little bit. And then once I tried smoking again, it just made me so anxious. So that's why I don't really smoke anymore. I like the idea of smoking weed, and I miss when weed used to make me feel good. Like, I remember that high school high, you know? But it just does not make me feel the same way it used to. It just makes me anxious. Anyway, I digress. So I hear about people wanting to take these mushrooms, and I'm like fascinated by the idea, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna have a bad trip if I go to this freaking get together high on mushrooms. So we get there and we're in a parking lot, and there's a lot of other parked cars there, so I can tell that there's going to be a lot of people around. I drove myself there. When I get there, somebody from that I used to go to school with, Sam, I'm not going to dox his full name. Shout out to Sam if you're watching this. He is there selling the mushrooms to everybody. And he's already there selling the drugs to everybody. And I see him selling to people, and while I'm sitting in my car, I'm like sitting here in my car, I see him through my windshield, on the right side of my windshield, and he asked me if I want to smile. That's what he said. He said, "Do you want to smile?" And he used his fingers. He's like, "You want to smile?" That's a pitch from a drug dealer if I ever heard one. I say no, and he's like, "Oh, okay." He understands. A little time passes, and then I get out of my car and I approach him, and there's a couple other people like in his gang. He's like a bunch of hoodlums. That was helping him to sell the drugs, and I talked to him about how I might be interested in getting some for personal use later on in my own time. And he was selling 15 grams at a time. Like, everybody that's going to this get together is eating 15 grams of mushrooms. If you know about psychedelic mushrooms, and that's a lot, let me know in the comments. I would assume that is a lot, depending on the kind of mushrooms that you're eating. And he said that would be too much for me. And the time has come for us to go inside. So he puts his arm around me, and he says that we can talk about it later. I know I said it in the beginning, but excuse me if I'm shivering a lot. I feel like I'm shivering a lot. When we get inside, the storyteller is standing on the porch. We're like on a sun porch. It reminds me of like an environment from my real life, one of my family members' houses. That's kind of irrelevant. But there's pretty much, to paint the picture, we're like in a room, and then there's a sliding glass door behind her, and she's standing in front of the sliding glass door, and then there's another woman sitting in a wooden chair behind her, and the other woman was also a dream character, not somebody from my real life. And I'm standing in like the front row in front of her, and then there's like a bunch of people, other people gathered around behind me. Everybody is gathered in a crowd standing in front of her. And then there's a black dog, about a medium-sized black dog that approaches her. That was also inside. And she lets this dog outside. She had to like trick him. She's like, "Oh yeah, we don't want this dog interrupting the story." So she lets the dog outside the sliding glass door and closes it behind it. And she had, like I said, she had to like trick this dog to get it to go outside. So when the dog gets outside, it just sits there in front of the door, just staring at us. And like, I could tell that it was upset that it got tricked, and it felt like it was missing out on the story. And yeah, like I said, this room feels like a room from my memory. The storyteller starts getting into the story, and I wish I could remember exactly how the story went and what it was about. We didn't get that deep into it before I woke up. But what I do remember is she was telling the story in second person. You know, second person where it's you are the pronoun. Like, it's saying you are doing this in the story. And one thing I do remember is the figure in the story that she's talking about. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. The figure in the story that she was talking about worked in a chicken joint. least I would assume that it was like a chicken joint or maybe like a chicken factory or something working with chickens. And she made a joke. She said she was talking about the boss, describing the boss, and she says he is always asking for cock. He's always demanding your cock. And I got a little kick out of that. I thought that was a funny joke. The next thing I remember is my sister-in-law tries to interact with the story. I don't remember if I said it in the beginning, but like it was like a free-flowing kind of story. Like people could like ask questions, or it was kind of like role play. I don't really know how to describe it, but people in the crowd could like pitch in and help out in the story. So she tries to do that, and she asked, I can't remember the exact question that she asked, but she asked the woman that was sitting in the chair behind the storyteller. And then she was like, oh, well, should I let her answer? She asked the storyteller if she should let her answer because she had the floor. And I don't remember exactly how that played out. But the last thing I remember before waking up is thinking about, like, in that moment when she was, like, talking, I remember thinking about the fact that everybody in the room just took 15 grams of mushrooms, and they're probably going to be, like, tripping balls any second now. And yeah, like I said, I went to bed around 2 o'clock and woke up from this dream around 9:30. I didn't remember a dream yesterday, and the day before yesterday was the first time in a while that I wrote down a dream. So that brings my dream recall score up to 2, and my monthly dream recall score for November up to 4. And yeah, I think that's about all. That didn't go on as long as I expected. Happy Thanksgiving. And good night. And sweet dreams.